If you've ever tried to make guitar chord diagrams before, you know that it can be kind of a pain. There's lots of ugly examples on the internet. It's not really easy to make one yourself. You can use some online resources, or you can use something like Paint and just drag everything into place, but that's pretty tedious. And I've run into this problem as well, so I decided to create a font, which I've called MusFrets. With this font, you simply type in regular old characters, and you can create guitar chord diagrams in a word processor, in pretty much any program that supports OpenType features. I'm going to walk through somewhat informally creating some examples in MusFrets. So for starters, you want to make a grid. I'm going to begin by just making a simple regular old 5-fret grid. That's going to be using the number sign. You can also type number sign again, and you get it without that nut on the top. Let's go back one. There are other varieties of this, but I'll talk about those later. Now at the most basic level, you simply use X, O, and numbers like this. You could do X, O, 2, 2, 3, O. And I don't even know that that's a real chord, but you get the idea. So any combination of those, and it just cycles through. You can also use a capital O if you want to do a larger circle, and this comes into play later if you want to put certain kinds of note names or functional chord numbers inside of here. Okay, I guess I'll talk now about bottom aligning these things. So if you type 4 and then a number sign, you get 4 frets, and then capital B aligns it to the bottom like that. So if you want to do that, X, press the D for down, O, press D for down. Now if I press 1, you see that it's still up here and I don't want that. So 2 is in the 1's place, 3 is in the 2's place, 4 is in the 3's place, etc. But you can do 4. Let's go back and let's do 3 number sign. Then you get, so by default they're aligned to the top, capital B puts it on the bottom. And finally you can have capital U for ukulele, capital U again, and it gets rid of that extra bar at the top. So let's go back and do a regular number sign for a regular 5-fret 6-string grid. So we've talked about some of the things that you can enter there. Next, let's talk about finger numbers. So if we go O2, and then if I type F2, puts a finger number 2, and then 2, F3, 1, F1. So that's easy enough. Let's go back a little ways. If I type 2 and then I press I, it places it inside of the circle. So same thing here. 2, F3, I. 1, F1, I. Like so. What about note names? Well, you can also do note names. It works in a similar kind of way. After you've placed the fret, you want to type an N, a lowercase n for note names, and then type the actual name of the note. Oh, we got to go back and do this one first. So here, let's do this one first. N and then capital E. Next, 2, then a small n and a capital B. Then 2, small n, capital E. 1, small n, capital G sharp. And O, N, capital B. O, N, capital E. Like so. And you can also use note names in conjunction with finger numbers. Now, if you want to do it this way, you need to make sure that you put in the finger number. Whatever is going to go inside of the fret needs to happen before the thing along the bottom. So 2, I would place the finger number next, F2 and I, and then I can place my note name, N and capital B, and like so, on down the line. So what about the kind of scenario where you have, let's say, a 4-fret grid. It's top aligned, So what happens when you put in some note names here? Let's say N, E. Well, you see that by default it's pretty low. So you can press U for up and it'll send it upwards. Okay, let's talk about functional numbers. You can add functional numbers by using a lowercase c prefix. Think of it like C for a chord member. So let me go back to my regular grid. I'm going to put in my open string, and this is going to be my root. So functional labels, you can do R2, M2. There's a whole list in the documentation of all the available ones, and I think I have pretty much all of the normal usage for that. So this is the root, and I'm going to type lowercase c followed by capital R. It's the root. Now, if I wanted to place it inside, it doesn't quite work. If I want to place it inside, I need to use the capital O. And then when I do that, lowercase c, R, I, then it places it inside. And you see that here I'm using the capital O, which is the larger circle. And of course, if you wanted to, you could just do it so that the there we go, so that this just stays on the bottom. Let me show you another one here. So 2, lowercase c, and 5. And again, you could continue placing it, or if you wanted to place it inside, simply type an I for inside, and it'll place it up inside the actual fret. You can also use functional numbers together with note names or finger numbers. So you can have combinations of these. You just need to know that if one of these is going to be inside the frets, that's the one that you should enter first. So after having done the 5, now I could go F2 and I could place it below. Okay, let's talk about bars. These are obviously pretty important. If you want to create a bar, first thing I'm going to do another number sign. We're actually going to get rid of that, of the nut across the top. To create a bar, you're just going to type B, followed by the number of strings that it spans. So 6. There it is. You could also type 5 or 4 or 3, and you don't have to start it on the first string. You could start it whenever you want. Perhaps you're starting like this, and then you want to type B5. You could certainly do that. Let's go back and put it like it was, B6. Now what if you want this to be lower? You can press D for down, and D for down again. You can lower it twice. Let's put it back where it was. I'm gonna put a finger number inside, F1, and I for inside, and then I'm gonna keep on going. 3, F3, I, 3, F4, I, 2, F2, I. There we go. Now if I want to advance the cursor, I can use the period, and it will advance it to the next position without actually displaying anything, which can be helpful. So what about if you want a bar that is a slurred style? Well, instead of a B, you're going to simply use an S. Let's do the exact same one that we just did. Instead of B6, we're going to type S6. There it is, and everything else would be the same. I can also press D and then D again to move that down twice. I'll enter a little different example. Let's do X, and now we're going to be S5 because it only has to span 5. We'll place it down D and D one more time, and then we'll put in some more. 4, 4, 5. And I don't know that this chord means anything. I'm not much of a guitarist, but that's how you would do it. Okay, let's talk about fret number indications. If you want to add some fret numbers, just type FR followed by the number. So let's type FR3. There it is. I can move it down D and down again using D if I want to align it with the actual location of the bar. Other than FR, I can simply type Roman numeral style fret numbers. So this would be 3rd fret, so I'm just going to do capital I. And I'll move it down and down again. So that's it. That's some of the basic functionality for MusFrets. I hope you find this helpful in creating guitar chord diagrams. I know it's certainly going to be a huge help to me. This is available on Notation Central. It is free, but I would really appreciate it if you would consider a donation. That allows me to keep improving it. keep developing it, and of course, I always welcome your feedback. Thanks.